Good morning, everyone. I think we'll get started since this is a quick episode. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in to the second episode of Velodyne Lidar's WSS webinar mini-series. My name is Jane Maynard, and I'll be your host today. We only have 15 minutes, so let's just jump right in. Our featured guest today is Tara Andringa, Executive Director of Partners for Automated Vehicle Education, otherwise known as Pave. Pave is a nonprofit coalition focused on engaging with the public about automated vehicles and their potential to improve the safety, mobility, and sustainability of our transportation system. Velodyne is also a member of Pave, and we're really excited to announce that Pave is participating in our upcoming Virtual World Safety Summit, which is taking place on October 22nd. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in our conversation today. So now I'd like to introduce you to our featured guest, Executive Director of Pave, Tara Andringa. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course. Since we don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to dive right into questions.
Great.
Okay, to begin, Tara, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how your experience led you to Pave?
Sure. My path to Pave was a little funny and kind of one of those examples of sometimes life takes you places you didn't imagine going and you've got to take a chance. I spent 21 years in the US Senate on Capitol Hill as a communications director. And I was working for the Michigan delegation, so it was a lot of cars and a lot of communication and a lot of policy. And after I left the Hill, a former colleague had called me when they were just coming up with the idea of a coalition like Pave and asked me to join, and I jumped aboard and have not regretted it for a second. It's been an exciting ride.
That's great. Pave states that the goal of the organization is to inform the public about automated vehicles and their potential so everyone can fully participate in shaping the future of transportation. Tara, why is that goal so important, and how is Pave working to increase public understanding of automated vehicles?
So widespread AV use would be the biggest change to our transportation system in a century. And we believe that making this change gives us an opportunity to improve the things that aren't right with our current system. We can make our roadways safer, we can make them more sustainable, we can make them more accessible. And every single person is impacted by our transportation system, whether they drive a car or use public transit or a pedestrian or a bike rider. And so we believe that everyone should be part of this conversation. What can we do to make our system better? Who's left out of the current system? And so Pave is a conversation with the public that we're trying to engage everybody in this conversation. And we know that technology can be confusing and intimidating when you think about the first time you ever had a cell phone and you thought there was no way I'm going to figure this out. So we're trying to kind of demystify the technology and talk about the potential of AVs, and we want everyone to be able to be part of that conversation in determining the future of transportation.
Very cool. How do you see Pave's public education efforts influencing policy?
So Pave engages in many different kinds of activities, and one of the main pillars of our effort is to engage with policymakers. We've heard from a lot of policymakers in different communities who, like the rest of the public, they just don't feel like they have all the information they want to have about AVs. They don't understand all the technology necessarily, and they also are trying to figure out how to help their communities prepare. Questions like what should we be doing to our infrastructure to make it ready for AVs? How do we get a pilot in our community? Those kinds of questions. And so similar to the way that we're trying to have a conversation with the rest of the public, we are trying to do a similar effort with policymakers, just it's more focused on the needs of the community at large instead of individuals and families. But similarly trying to share facts and dispel misconceptions.
So Velodyne is a proud member of Pave. Who are some of the other members of Pave? Who makes up the organization?
Right, we are proud to be a really diverse group. And that's a part of our founding belief was that a public education campaign has to look like the public. So we have a lot of large, international companies as well as small startups, and then a lot of advocacy groups. groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving and the National Federation of the Blind and the National Safety Council, who are whose constituencies could benefit a lot from AV technology. And we think those voices are really important in the conversation about looking at the future of transportation and AVs. So it's a diverse group, but together we all what unites all our members is the belief in the potential of AVs, and then the belief that we are more likely to realize that potential if the public is on board.
That's really neat. Pave is active and working to improve passenger vehicle accessibility as well. Can you talk about the potential for automated vehicle technology to provide new transportation options to people with disabilities?
Sure. As we've talked about, there are a lot of potential benefits of AVs, but one place where it could be truly life-changing is for people who can't currently drive a vehicle. And whether it's people with physical disabilities or cognitive impairments, the current transportation system leaves out a lot of people. And even basic life necessities, things like getting to a job or getting to a doctor's appointment, can be difficult, if not impossible. I think there's a statistic by the Bureau of Labor Statistics that said 19% of people who are disabled have jobs, as opposed to 66% of people who aren't. So it's vastly difficult, if you can't drive a car. So AVs offer a potential to offer mobility to millions of people who are disenfranchised by the current system. And so that's one of the benefits of AVs that we at Pave like to talk about frequently.
Pave has endorsed an effort by several leading safety organizations, including AAA and the National Safety Council, to establish standardized naming for advanced driver assistance, which is commonly known in the industry as ADAS technology. Why do you see this initiative as important?
Well, like I said, we see the Pave as a conversation with the public. And one of the challenges is, when we talk to people across the country, a lot of people have no concept at all about AVs or about vehicle technology, and they don't even necessarily have the vocabulary to have the conversation. And so part of what we believe is just giving people the basic tools to engage in this conversation. And then in particular, that effort by AAA and the National Safety Council and others, AAA did a study, I think it was about a year ago. And what it found is both there's a lot of confusion about terminology. I think if my memory is right, there were like 40 different words that different manufacturers use to describe automatic emergency braking. And so they started this effort to devise some sort of common nomenclature so that people in the public know, you can compare apples to apples and that everyone's talking about the same thing. So Pave thought that this was a good effort to get all of these different groups on board and moving in the same direction and sort of have some commonality. So we were excited to join the effort that they had started.
Thank you for joining that effort. It will be important. Can you talk about how Pave is involved in the upcoming 2020 World Safety Summit? And you can even tell us how you've been involved in the past and how it's evolving.
Absolutely. So last year we joined the World Safety Summit, and it was really just an introductory conversation about public engagement with AVs. And this year we're taking a slightly different focus. Pave did a poll, a nationally commissioned poll earlier this year. And one of the findings of the poll was the link between ADAS technology and AVs, that people who are exposed to safety technology in their cars now were both more optimistic about AVs, they were more trusting of the idea of AVs, and they also were more open to new safety technology. Basically, the idea was once you've experienced it, you want it more, and you realize what a difference it can make. And so this year at the World Safety Summit, we have put together a panel of folks to talk about ADAS technology and safety and the link between that and AVs and the huge benefit that could have.
One final question. What are you most looking forward to about this year's Safety Summit? And I know you've told me that you really liked last year, so I'm excited to hear why you're excited and why you love World Safety Summit.
Wonderful. Yeah, last year I had the huge honor of being there in person. And it was one of those events that I left just feeling energized. This huge room full of people, all thinking about the future of transportation and technology and safety. And it was really a just, energizing group. And one of my favorite parts was there was a huge group of kids. I can't remember, I think they were about middle school, but they were all doing this scavenger hunt kind of thing, going from table to table. And at each table they would ask, like, what are you doing? And it was one of those examples that, the kids thought they were playing a game. They didn't even realize how much they were learning. But it was just a fabulous event. And then what's cool this year is because it's virtual, the audience isn't limited by people who can get to Northern California. So everyone can join. And so I'm really excited that, you're able to expand the audience that much more. So super excited for this year's as well.
So we are just about out of time. I do want to mention that this webinar episode has been recorded and it will be available to view on Velodyne Lidar's YouTube channel. Now, if you have any questions for Tara or for Velodyne, there is contact information there on the screen. Feel free to reach out with questions about World Safety Summit, Pave, or anything regarding autonomous vehicle technology. And myself, as Velodyne's digital marketing manager, I follow Pave's social media very closely, and they do a fantastic job of sharing really helpful information about autonomous vehicle technology. And they even have their own webinar series they've been doing all this year that's really informative and really inspiring. So thank you, Tara. Be sure you all go and check them out on social media. I want to thank Tara again for spending her morning with us. Thank you so much, Tara.
Thank you so much, Jane. Really enjoyed being with you.
It was great. I want to thank our audience as well. Be sure to tune in again for the next episode of the WSS webinar mini-series leading up to our virtual World Safety Summit on October 22nd. Our next webinar episode will take place on Friday, October 2nd, and our featured guest will be Bobby Hambrick, founder, president, and CEO of Autonomous Stuff. So if you have 15 minutes to spare, we look forward to seeing you next time.